Hello and welcome everybody to today's webinar, Open Platform Automation, the way to your tailor-made solution. I'm Christy Jewell of Lab Roots, and I'll be your moderator for today's event. Today's educational web seminar is presented by Lab Roots and brought to you by Inpeco North America. To learn more about our sponsor, visit www.inpeco.com. Now, we encourage you to participate today by submitting any questions you may have during the presentation. To do so, simply type them into the Ask a Question box and click Submit. We will answer as many of your questions as we have time for at the end of the presentation. Also, if you experience any technical issues, you can utilize this Q&A box and we will assist you directly. We also have a group chat feature located on the right side of the screen. So if you haven't already been interacting with everybody, please do so. Feel free to just type it in and chat with everybody during the webinar. Be sure to submit those questions, though, into the Q&A box. I would now like to welcome our speakers. Bruno Abrantes, Director of Global Direct Sales at Inpeco. Robert Fredericks, Vice President, Northeast Operations, Siemens Healthcare USA. And Tommy Dyer, President and Managing Director at Inpeco North America. Also joining us for our live Q&A, we have Kathleen Gorzyka of Boston Children's Hospital. Bruno, let's kick it off.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're viewing us today. It's my pleasure to be hosting you and to present our company, our tailor-made solutions, and how these have supported thousands of labs around the world meet and exceed their ever-changing needs. So the story of our company is really about the vision of one man, Gianandrea Pedrazzini, to eliminate errors in healthcare through the use of automation. In the beginning of the 90s, our founder really invented total lab automation, and some of its early concepts are today still industry standards. We are now major global leaders in total lab automation, and we sell our solutions through major IVD companies that act as our distributors, as well as directly to end users and end customers. So for the last 30 years, we've been exclusively dedicated to designing and producing advanced automation solutions that efficiently manage not only the sample, but also the data workflows in clinical labs. Today, the effects of automation are widely known and accepted. Significant reduction in labor, reduction of the turnaround time for results, increased in productivity. But also recent studies on the pre-analytical phase have demonstrated also a reduction in the collection time by the implementation of automated solutions for specimen collection, such as the one that Inpeco developed a few years back, and it's called ProTube. So really our mission is to automate clinical diagnostics to enable patients to live longer and healthier lives. Our goal is the full traceability of the diagnostic process, and this allows us to control what we call the total testing process from the very early stages, the sample identification, through the delivery of results. And we do this by introducing our solutions, ProTube for the left part in the slide, what you see there as before the lab in orange, that manages and controls the different steps from patient identification through sample preparation, sample validation, and transportation to the lab. And then our FlexLab solution that allows us to control in full automation and traceability all the processes that happen on the right side in blue inside the lab. So we are present today all over the world. Our customers are, I would say, evenly distributed between the different continents, Americas, Europe, Middle East, and Asia Pacific. And we have to date more than 2,600 systems installed worldwide, whether directly by Inpeco or through our IVD distributors. This obviously brings us a lot of experience and expertise, but more importantly than these installations, this installed base, is the fact that we assess on a yearly basis and design more than 2,000 lab plans from laboratories all over the world. As you can imagine, this provides us with a very unique and broad knowledge of market trends and market dynamics that allows Inpeco really to be ahead of any market needs today and in the future. So from the vast list of our customers, there are those which stand out for particular reasons. I'd like to highlight some of them today, if you allow me. So starting from the top left, we have Boston Children's. Obviously here is the management of very important samples, pediatric samples, where size and value of the sample is critical. So we were able to support Boston Children's in its day-to-day challenges. Then we have MSK Cancer Center in New York. This is a lab located in downtown Manhattan. And as you can imagine, floor space is premium. So we were able to automate the entire operation of MSK by the development and installation of the first vertical transportation module, which allows us to connect an automation system on 2 different floors. So this provided MSK with a full automation and integration system that allows them to keep a continuity of their operations. Then Quest Diagnostics is really one of the first mega labs we ever introduced our systems to. We're talking about 10 years ago, 2014. We call mega labs to any labs that have greater than 50,000 samples to manage every day. And here really we were stretched to develop innovative solutions that the market had never seen before. So today we have 3 sites running at the Quest premises with over 100,000 samples in each of these sites, again, in full automation. Continuing in the United States, both Ascend, LabCorp Covance, and Avita are dedicated labs, CROs, dialysis and nephrology care, where we had multiple challenges that we needed to overcome, especially around very stringent turnaround times for these patients, as well as growing with customer demands and needs over time. Before we leave the US, I would like to highlight on the top center, Sonic Healthcare. You see 2 arrows there. One is pointing towards Belgium. The second installation we have within the Sonic group is Sonic Sunrise in Long Island. We are very proud of this installation, and we'll have Rob Fredericks, VP Operations, also to share his testimonial after this presentation on his experience regarding Inpeco products and Inpeco services. But leaving now the US, I would just like to highlight 2 laboratories in South America, in Brazil, to be more specific, DASA and Hermes Pargini. These are also huge installations, not just because of size, but because of many different challenges. Actually, Hermes Pargini, who is now part of the Fleury group, holds the record of the longest, largest, and most productive automation to date. We are talking about a lab that has the record of almost 200,000 tubes processed in 24 hours in full automation. So this means from check-in to storage, and they have large storage for over 1.3 million samples, everything in full automation, which obviously makes us very proud. Moving on into Europe, bottom center, Clínico Barcelona is what we call our Inpeco 360 customer. We have a very long and a very tight relationship with Clínico, who has not only our TLA solution, FlexLab, but also our ProTube solution for collection. And they have it installed on the external outpatient setting, as well as all the wards. So the entire hospital has tracking and traceability of their collection, but also a new solution that we're bringing to market in the anatomical pathology field called FlexPath. So really a customer that embraces all the innovation and all the products that are coming from Inpeco. On the top right, you have Fürst, one of the major and largest labs in the Nordics. Star SHL, again, a very interesting challenge of merge of 2 huge mega labs in the Netherlands. And this is also the location where we first connected the Panther from Hologic, so the first molecular biology analyzer connected to a TLA system. And then finally, we have Serba, a French organization, a huge new mega lab installed in the outskirts of Paris just went live over a month ago, really going very, very well. Customer very happy, and we're also very happy to support their new core lab. And finally, Violier in Switzerland, also a lab that presented the challenge of multiple floors, multiple levels that needed to be connected. And this also was made possible by the development of the vertical transportation module. Finally, without forgetting the Australia, we have 3 large installations with the Ilias Group, and this also are very productive, and they keep the operation running at a very steady pace. So all of these are obviously very important. All of our customers are very important, but the highlight here is really about the experience and expertise that these customers are bringing to us. And just these 15 customers, in these 15 customers, every day, we are processing more than 1,000 tubes every single day. So that's the scale and the level of productivity that our automation solutions are able to deliver to laboratories across the world. So what makes our products special? So really, FlexLab is a unique and advanced solution for laboratories of any size and specialties. It covers all the samples and their data and results flow in a completely automated and fully traced process. From check-in, and here we have multiple options we can explore, whether we use rack, bulk, or pneumatic transportation connection. The track integrates powerful software and manages and traces which tasks will be necessary from the beginning for each specific sample. We also have different pre-analytical modules that take care of all the necessary steps, from centrifugation, sample integrity check, volume measurement, decapping and aliquoting. And then moving on into the automation, into the analytical phase that allows really to grow according to your needs at the time you decide and in the way you prefer. Adding modules or new analyzer connections is easy by design. That's why we have to date more than 50 different connections covering 11 different disciplines from 25 different IVD providers. Lastly, as opposed to analytical, we're also able to customize and to scale these solutions when we talk about refrigerated storage that can range from presentation from 9,000 up to 336,000 tubes in a controlled environment, fully automated retrieval and disposing tasks, and both primary and secondary tubes can be sealed, or they can be screwed or pressure capped before they are stored or sent out to other reference labs. Obviously, we know that an automation solution is only as good as the analyzers it can connect. And in our case, we can truly say that we're not just open, we were born open. This has been our philosophy since 1995. Our agnostic position regarding the analytical instruments allows us to establish close ties with all main IVD providers, enabling customers to choose the best of breed for their TLA without making any compromise. In the same line, having modules that automate the tasks and adapt to any volume or size is what we do constantly. And we review our products by incorporating market experience as well as customer feedback to improve, create new modules, and continue to innovate beyond current standards. This was the case of the storage, as I mentioned, for Quest. We developed the first high-volume storage. At the time, in 2014, it was a 500,000 tube capacity storage. It became one of a kind. It's really unique. And from this storage, we then developed the standard versions of different volumes. And again, this happened for the first time almost 10 years ago. The same also happened for the integration of a pneumatic transportation system. We had a customer in the Nordics that was requesting us to interface this system, which connects directly the wards to the automation system without any manual intervention. So the first integration happened in 2016, and since then, multiple other labs have endorsed and have taken the benefit of using the seamless integration between a pneumatic transportation and an automation system. Lastly, just as an example, I mentioned it already, the vertical transport module, first developed in 2017 for MSK. And again, this allowed us to break the barriers of only 2 dimensions, building really labs with a greater flexibility, using the space in multiple floors, and really developing and connecting seamless tracks in different floors and allowing a continuity of operations. So all these innovations have become market reference, yet we continue to push the boundaries and disrupt the TLA market. And we are prepared to do it once again with our new platform called X, which we'll be unveiling at the ADLM in Chicago at the end of July next month. So obviously it's quite early. We cannot show too much, but as a sneak peek, I would like to just share what's coming in X, and it's very exciting. We have a new module that's called Smart Bridge, and this will allow us to design layouts like never seen before, with a flexibility that was never possible up to now. Here, just as an example, you can see a lab, real example, a lab that decided to dedicate its premium ground floor on the top to locate its analytical area. You see there on the foreground, the pre-analytical modules, in this case, rack input modules, centrifuges, decappers, and sample integrity modules. And then after those, you'll see the different analyzers. In this case, we have 7 different CleanChem and immunoassay platforms from 7 different providers that are connected seamlessly to one single track. In the basement, in the ground floor, you will see 2 high-capacity modules, storages of over 300,000 tubes capacity each, which are keeping samples refrigerated for 14 days. Both floors are connected through independent 2-lane vertical tracks, which you see represented in pink and blue, which ensure high productivity and full redundancy for continuous lab operation. Lastly, in the top right, you see also in blue and pink, a small bridge that is connecting 2 sides of the track on the analytical space, creating a walk-through area for improved ergonomics of the lab operators. So this is just an example of the high level of customization of our solutions can offer. And with X, we will redefine, once again, lab automation. I would like now to hand over the presentation to Tommy Dyer, who will present you in more detail how our American organization can support you with any TLA needs you may have. Over to you, Tommy.
Thank you, Bruno. Great job. Well done. So as we look at more specific to the US market, and I'd like to start by thanking everybody that's here live with us right now, and also we'll be watching this, let's say, out of the archive or post this live webinar. So thank you for joining us. And it's an honor to be able to speak to you about, let's say, more specifically, how we conduct business here in the United States. And Bruno did a phenomenal job of detailing open connectivity. That's who we are. That's how we're built. That's what's at our heart, is the open connectivity, meaning that we're agnostic in the sense of analytical platforms, providing freedom of choice with reference to best in class that you choose for your laboratory as far as the analytical components are concerned. And that's what's at the core of what we do. That's at the core of our value proposition to the market. And it's what we can bring to our North American customers. And really making sure that we're fitting the needs for you, meaning that we're not just giving you an out-of-a-box type of solution. These are truly tailor-made solutions. These are something where we're working with you, the end user, the customer, to design what is going to be needed, not only for today's solution or today's problem, solving those needs, but also for the future, for the next 10 plus years of growth, and making sure that we're designing from the beginning the right solution to grow with you. We speak about scaling, and that's what I'm speaking to here, is being able to future-proof and maximize that investment, being able to grow with you as you grow, being able to let's say, change platforms, should you choose a different analytical platform in the future, or wanting to add more disciplines. Let's say that we start with a design that's mostly focused on chemistry, immunoassay, hematology, coagulation, but at some point you want to grow to molecular, or you want to grow to different areas of your laboratory, and being able to scale for that and future-proof for that. And then last but not least, and this is the biggest piece, we often get asked this question, well, how do I buy this? How do I have to acquire this? And, a lot of you may recognize us through our distributor partners. We have had relationships long-term with distribution, let's say through the IVD partners, but we also have the ability and you'll hear from Rob Fredericks here in a little bit, about a direct to end user relationship or a direct to customer relationship. And that's really what we want to highlight, is being able to provide to you our solution independent of, let's say, an IVD relationship. How do we do that? How do we make that happen? What kind of services can we offer? How are we structured here in the United States and North America to support you? Really, we start with kind of an as is, meaning, what is your current state? What is your current solution? Are you automated, non-automated? And what is the to be or the future state? And we walk through that together. We come in and we visit your laboratory on site. We do a full-blown needs analysis. We do a full-blown workflow optimization. We take a look at your data. We take a look at your workflow specific to you. And then we begin to design, let's say through layouts, a future state and have those discussions. We'll start with an iteration or two and bring that to you. We'll have discussions around that. And usually those discussions are where we start to really tweak and see that the customer's involving themselves in that conversation, really starting to take ownership of what their future state could be. And it's not for us to dictate to you what your solution needs to be. It's for us to work together hand in hand to find the right solution for you. We provide 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional drawings. We can even provide videos to show you what that future state would look like with an Inpeco automation. And if we are to move forward in a relationship, then we also have project planning, project management, implementation, and then of course, post-implementation service. I think it's very important that I denote for the group here that we do support our own tracks. We have our own service organization. We have our own project management and change management organization. So we are fully suited here to support you in all of your needs from beginning all the way through the life of that automation system. The next topic that I think is also important to discuss is, how do I acquire this? What are my options as far as purchasing? So we'll speak about what is typical, what we usually see in an IVD relationship, where you are, let's say, purchasing an automation more so maybe as an add-on or a complement to the analytical platforms. Again, through a cost per reportable type of relationship, you're able to put that more in an operating type of budget. You'll see that you can make those payments over time. But what it really does is limit your vendor choices. Then essentially you're, let's say, committed to that vendor and their analytical platforms long-term. These can be longer contractual obligations, and really ultimately over time, the automation can end up being more expensive. Then, of course, on the other side is full capital investment. I think this is tough in a lot of instances, where to have full capital ready for not only purchasing automation, but analytical components as well, it can be a substantial hit to CapEx. And in today's environment, that sometimes can be hard to come by. It can be more complex. There's a little bit more freedom of choice there, negotiation power, let's say, but in reality, it can be tougher to acquire the product. So the preferred methodology, or what we suggest, is really having a balance of both, right? And in a direct relationship with us, being able to acquire the automation and then having the ability to still form some of those CPRR type of contracts with your vendors for analytical components. What this opens you up to, though, is the ability to change IVD providers over time. If there's something that's more advanced from that IVD vendor that you want to, let's say, complement your automation system with, then we're really providing the infrastructure to do that. The main hub throughout your, let's say, laboratory really does become the automation, but it gives you the freedom of choice to make those decisions. And having the ability to, let's say, form different relationships gives you that balance that we feel is a great approach to automating your laboratory. Moving forward, kind of more of a summary here of what Bruno's discussed, what I've discussed. Market leading performance. We are the global market leader in automation. You can work directly with us as the TLA manufacturer, as the OEM, providing what we call R3, the reliability, the robustness, the responsibility for ownership of that automation system. Tailoring that solution specifically to you. We're open by design, we're flexible to change, we're a very scalable solution, and really providing you a future-proof type of automation solution to truly become that infrastructure in your laboratory, to build around the automation long-term. And that's how we design our tracks for you. Platform consolidation, so reducing complexity and waste, being able to reduce manual work and those labor needs that are more manual tasks that can be automated. That's what our automation systems bring. It's more so aligning your teams and your labor force to what they were trained to do. And that's review results, help with the clinical pathways, help clinicians make decisions, and really focusing their attention on that piece. And then reducing OpEx, right? And owning the track, financial leverage, bringing market competitiveness and really business growth by being open to different ways of acquisition and looking at the finances of this in a different way. So I have the distinct pleasure of now giving you a sneak peek of what you'll see in July at ADLM should you join us in Chicago. And I'm going to go ahead and give you this sneak peek right. Excellent. And I hope that you're as excited as we are to unveil our next generation platform at ADLM. And I want to have, let's say, the more so the customer's perspective here. And so we've asked Rob Fredericks to join us from Sonic Sunrise Laboratories, and he's going to present to you more of a customer's perspective of this. You've heard from Bruno and I, but I think it's more impactful to hear one of our actual customers. So Rob, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Tommy. As Tommy said, I'm with the Northeast Division of Sonic Healthcare United States, and we are known locally in the marketplace as Sunrise Medical Laboratories. We're a full-service, independent clinical laboratory, and we service customers and patients in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic states. So when we were considering laboratory automation, I thought here we'll start with where we ended up. There were a lot of considerations and a lot of factors. Where we ended up was beginning with the core laboratory, and this is an artist's rendering of how our laboratory is laid out. So you can see that in the upper right-hand corner, we automated our chemistry, immunology, and allergens, and then on the left side, we have urinalysis, we have hematology, we have the A1C platforms, and we also have high volume storage units. We have 2 units that are capable of storing 240,000 tubes each, And then along the lower bottom part of the track system is our pre-analytical places where we have our bulk input modules, we have I/O modules scattered throughout the track, we have our decapping and our resealing and shaking and aliquoting and so forth scattered throughout the system. We believe this is a great start to automating our laboratory. We've designed it such that as we grow, we can add to it both in the core laboratory and we can add additional departments. So why Inpeco? Why automate? A hallmark of our laboratory is every decision we make is based around quality and around our service levels. We're not interested in anything that doesn't, at a minimum, maintain where we are today, and preferably grow that service and grow that quality and provide continued increases and improvements to our customer base. We're all, I guess, very familiar with the lab economics today. The push down from the top on payers, reduced reimbursements, the push up on the bottom from our expenses. Labor, especially in the last few years, post-pandemic, has been a huge change in the marketplace as the technical workforce has aged and not been replaced at the same level, and it's moving into retirement. The retention and recruiting of technical staff has become an increasing challenge, and the way to address that is to automate. Our goal is to have our technical people doing what they train to do in reviewing the testing that's happening and making sure that qualities are at a high level and not doing the repetitive tasks that can be handled by automation. So why Inpeco? It was very important to us that we have an open platform, and it's kind of interesting as I've listened to Bruno and Tommy throughout the presentation, you'll hear some of the things that they talked about were exactly the considerations that we made and moved toward Inpeco. Open platform is very important. We're making an investment in automating our laboratory for a long time to come. We did not want to be tied to any one particular IVD. Their ability to connect multiple IVDs to do it relatively simply and continued growth in that area was very, very important to us. Their high volume scalability, we have a reasonably high volume laboratory, and knowing that they have connected and automated laboratories that even have more volume than we do, give us that scalability for the future was very important to us. And then finally, the return on investment. It's not an inexpensive process to undertake. And as every other healthcare organization, we have to ensure that we have a good return on our investment. And looking at the efficiencies and the economies that we're going to be able to get from this automation and our internal hurdle rates and the costs of the platform, we're able to justify this with a reasonably good return on our investment over the next number of years. So what are the impacts to our laboratory? Let's start with implementation. I can't overestimate the impact that you're going to feel in your laboratory when you're putting this system in. If you're going into a greenfield laboratory, that's great. You're not going to have the issues that I'm talking about here. You're not going to see the same level of complexity. But we have an operating laboratory, and like most laboratories, we don't have an overabundance of space. So it was very important to us that we do extensive planning. How are we going to have swing space to be able to set up the track, to be able to move our instruments around, to be able to connect those instruments back to the track at some point in time? In our core laboratory, over the course of this implementation, every single instrument in those departments was touched and moved at least once. Some a few inches, some totally relocated and moved back again, but this has a tremendous impact to your day-to-day operations. It's very, very important that that gets planned out. And I will say that with the proper planning, and our experience was that our customer base had no idea that there's anything going on behind the scenes. Our team was tremendously focused and performed admirably to ensure that testing was performed, same quality levels that we're used to performing, and same turnaround times, and making it blind to our customers. But it is a very high impact implementation process. For the impacts from an operational standpoint, and in full disclosure here, we're about to go live in the next couple of weeks. But based on everything we've seen so far, we expect to see significant efficiencies coming out of this, eliminating repetitive activities, especially in the pre-analytical. The moving of specimens around the laboratory, searching for specimens for add-ons, disposing of specimens at the end of their life cycle, all of the other things that are involved in specimen movement, that goes away. The amount of movement around for our technologists and being able to really be in a workstation and to be able to review results and release results, we expect to see significant labor efficiencies out of that. Second part was a little less intuitive. As with most laboratories, we had testing that was scheduled by shift, and we used the instruments for those shifts, and there were many instruments that were used only for a single shift. Now we're connecting the instruments into the track, and as the tubes hit the track, they now can go through the instruments irrespective of when the labor is actually on board. So that's effectively increased our instrument capacity, as we now have utilization of some of these instruments over multiple shifts as opposed to over a single shift. And then finally is the scalability to our operation, and this is really key in today's environment, and to be competitive in the marketplace. We now have the ability to grow our volumes significantly with very minimal impact to our technical labor, because of what the automation gives us. So our future goals, as I said earlier, we've set this up to increase our connectivity. We had some instrumentation that we've had in the lab for some time that wasn't at a level to be able to be connected to the track yet, and we have plans to replace that and connect it into the track. We have left space to be able to add additional of the existing platforms onto the track as necessary. And then finally, we've set it up so that we can extend the track as it's currently configured to other departments and continue to grow our connectivity across multiple departments in the laboratory. And Tommy, with that, we'll turn it back over to you and your team for question and answer.
Outstanding. Thank you so much, Rob.
Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for your informative presentations. I do want to invite Bruno, Tommy, and Kathleen as well back with us on camera. And as you see, Rob has joined us via audio. He's dialing in from the office and unable to connect due to firewalls. So great to know that our cybersecurity is working. Okay, now to our audience. If you have a question you'd like to ask and haven't done so yet, please do so now. Just type them into that ask a question box, click submit, and we will answer as many of your questions as we have time for. So everyone, we have so many great questions already coming in. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to dive in. Let's start with this one. Do you have any Flex Lab installation in Canada, or are all the tracks installed through either Abbott or Siemens?
I'll take that one. So up to this point, our IVD distributor partners, Abbott and Siemens, have conducted those installations in Canada. But we do have the ability now at this point to, let's say, have a different kind of conversation. And we can speak about a direct relationship with Inpeco, even accessing our next generation platform. So to this point, yes, but I would say we're more than open to have a conversation with you about how we could make that a future state with an Inpeco relationship.
Thanks, Tommy. Okay, and Kathleen, I believe this one is for you. It's a couple parts. Is there a plan to develop a way to deal with pediatric small test tubes? This may give a unique advantage compared to the other competitors. And two, if we offer the current automatic system to customers in a tender during 2024, do you think we can claim that in 5 to 7 years at the end of the contract when they want to replace the analyzers, will it be possible to connect new analyzers to the system? Oh, Kathleen, the audio's not working. Let's test one more time. Check if it's muted on your side. Okay. Let's table this question and get your mic working. I'm going to jump to another one.
Should I take the second part of the question? Maybe it's more for us, the second part.
Sure.
So obviously when you acquire an automation system, depending on the module, we do guarantee a long, let's say, lifetime of the system. So we have customers that are running our systems for 10 years or more. Obviously, it depends on how the system has been run. From a certain age, it might require what we call a refurbishment, which is basically, let's say, a revision of the system. This typically happens around year 7, 8. But again, these options are available to extend the life of the system beyond 7, 8. Again, we have customers running over 10, some of them even over 15. And that, as long as the possibility to upgrade is open, we can always change modules, change connections. Everything is available and can be done.
Thank you, Bruno. Now I'm going to jump to another question while we're getting Kathleen all set. What are the key reasons for adopting a business direct strategy without partners? And how do you plan to structure your distributor network to support this approach?
So go ahead, Bruno.
I'll take that one.
Sure.
I think it's more from a global strategic point of view. So we've probably the market is aware, over the last decade, basically, we've been bringing our products to market through our partnerships, Siemens and Abbott. This has been a very successful partnership, both for us, but also for the IVDs. But we did feel over time that we were moving away from direct customers. So we were kind of setting ourselves apart from the true needs of the market, the true needs of the customers, and we were not comfortable with that position. So what we were able to rediscuss was a situation, go-to-market position, which allowed us to continue to serve IVD distributors, not only those historical two, but even expand our, let's say, network of IVD companies that constantly were approaching us and asking us to work with Inpeco, but most importantly, to serve direct customers, end customers, and allow these customers that were also constantly asking to work with Inpeco directly to take a decision on the track before they commit on the analyzers to do business directly with Inpeco. So this was the driver behind our decision to go directly in the market. And again, we believe that this is adding a new possibility. This is creating for customers an additional option that they can choose from. As I said, we will continue to support the IVD. So if they want to continue to procure an Inpeco automation system through their trusted IVD partner, because they have a long-standing relationship, because most of the analyzers could be from one IVD, we're absolutely fine with that. We will support, and we're very happy to support customers and IVDs in that sales model. But on the other hand, we also have customers like the one you've just heard, that have this need to come directly to us and to have and procure a track directly from the manufacturer, the automation provider, and then be completely free to decide which analytical engines they want to connect. So this is how we are basically approaching the market. Maybe expanding a little bit, there are regions of the world where Inpeco will be present with a full affiliate and organization. And that is the case of the United States, where we have today almost 20 people that are able to support not only on the sales side, but also on the service side with the installations and the service support that is required. And then in Europe, Central Europe, we will have the same organization, the same structure, in this case supported by the headquarters in Switzerland, with different teams on the ground. other geographies like South America, Middle East, we will work with local distributors, and this is how we are addressing the market right now. So it will not be Inpeco Direct, but it will be local Inpeco representatives that under our name will support customers and will provide customers with the same level of products and services as if they were acquiring them directly from Inpeco.
And Christy, if you wouldn't mind, and Rob, not to put you on the spot, but I would love to hear your perspective. I think Bruno gave an excellent, let's say, overview of our commercial strategy, but why did you take the approach of partnering with us directly?
To me, it was very important not to be tied to a single IVD. Technology changes at different paces, different rates within different IVD vendors. We want the flexibility to be able to go to get whatever vendors meet our needs best. Usually when you're dealing with a vendor, they're pushing their particular solution. Not all vendors have equal solutions, especially as it relates to automation. So Inpeco gave us that flexibility of divorcing from our IVD decisions from our automation decisions, giving us the most flexibility and ultimately giving us the ability to be much better in control of our cost functions as we go forward.
Excellent. Thanks, Rob.
Thank
Christy.
you. You got it. Let's jump into this next question here. And this one has come in a couple times. Is there a plan to implement this technology in Europe as well?
That's Bruno.
Well, the technology Inpeco products are available worldwide. So if we're talking about the new X technology, when we launch next month at ADLM, it's going to be available worldwide. So it's going to be a world launch. Typically, we do it at the ADLM. It's obviously a place where we've unveiled innovations in the past. It's always a comeback home for us. But this technology will be available from that moment all across the world.
Thanks, Bruno. Here's a great question. What would be your service strategy for a new large track install, 30,000 plus tubes a day, for a 24/7 operation? Would you have service present on site every day?
Sure, I'll take that one. So in fact, Rob's a prime example in his operation in Long Island. So we have the ability to provide on-site service to cover the busiest shifts, the shifts where the peak volume is coming through, actual physical Inpeco service engineers present on site. And so in our agreement with Rob and team, we are going to provide 2 full FSCs across 16 hours of their day to be there to help, let's say, train, along with tend to the track, preventative maintenance, those sort of things. So that volume that you're speaking about is definitely similar to what we're describing. And with reference to how we customize service, it really is up to the end user or the customer themselves. There's multiple ways to approach that. But in the United States specifically, and across the globe as well, we have our own service teams that we can structure those contracts to be available 24/7, 16 hours, 8 hours a shift, 5 days a week, 6 days a week. It really depends on the need, and it depends on how complex that track might be, how many different disciplines, how many different modules, those sort of things that the customer has chosen. But I think the takeaway from this is that it is a fully 100% customizable and fully supported 24/7 type of approach should the customer want that.
Let me just add to what Tommy said. That was a very, very important consideration for us with a commercial laboratory with a client base that's spread all over the place. We don't have a lot of flexibility time-wise for downtime in order to meet our commitments to our patients and our customers. So having that on-site support during our busiest hours being able to address any issues that would come up right away and keep production rolling was absolutely critical to our decision.
Thank you, Rob.
Okay, great. And we have some great questions coming in, and we want to hop back to piggyback on a question we just asked previously. Is there a plan to develop a way to deal with pediatric small test tubes? And let's see, let me just read. This may give a unique advantage compared to other competitors.
Sure, and I appreciate that. I would love for Kathleen's perspective, of course, but with reference to Boston Children's specifically, Boston Children's has challenged us to, let's say, develop and partner with even the tube manufacturers themselves. We've had many conversations with Sarsted and Griner and go down the list of companies that produce tubes. And let's say on their side, also trying to work towards opening up more of that pediatric space. We do have the ability to automate pediatric samples today, which is, let's say, often been a sticking point or a barrier to automating in the pediatric space. But there are, let's say, ongoing efforts on both sides to continue to push on our tube manufacturers to have an automation ready, let's say, style of tube for the pediatric testing. Kathleen, like I said, could give more perspective on that. But as far as the Inpeco side of this, that would be my answer.
Thanks, Tommy. And I do just want to read a comment from our audience members. Please don't forget Africa in your future plans as well.
Sure.
Well, we don't forget Africa. We have to date more than 20 TLA installations in Africa. These have been deployed by our partners, but of course, in our local distributor strategy, we will take that into consideration for the future. We also want to be present there directly, or in this case, through our local appointed distributors.
Thanks, Bruno. Can you give a model of saving manpower needed for operating an automation system when comparing to current standalone situations?
I'll take that. When we speak about, let's say, manpower in today's environment, I think Rob alluded to this. There's labor shortages in the laboratory, and maybe in a certain situation or in a certain stage of automation development, it might have been more centered around, okay, how do I reduce this labor? But anymore, it's about how do you repurpose your manpower, and how do you align your trained technologists, your degreed technologists, more to what they are trained to be doing versus manual tasks. And I think that's the benefit. It gives you the ability to focus the attention of a laboratorian on what laboratorians should be doing. And that's reviewing results, providing clinical decisions back to their customers and to the clinical teams, versus, let's say, popping the top off of a tube over and over and over, or having to load a centrifuge and unload a centrifuge, or load an analyzer and unload an analyzer, those sort of things. So really, each laboratory is going to be specific based on volume, based on their current labor force, but it really does come down to, does that laboratory have a shortage of manpower as it is? And are we able to repurpose, if you will, that manpower to what they're trained to be doing? And Rob, I don't know if you want to comment or add on to that at all.
Yeah, I think the other piece of it that's really important is this is going to be extremely variable depending on your individual laboratories. How well are you optimized in your process in your laboratory today? What's the regulatory environment for your laboratory? So, for example, in New York State, there are very strict regulations on what non-technical versus licensed technical people can do, where in other states, many of those tasks that New York State mandates to technical people can be legitimately done within the CLIA regulations by a non-technical person. So the headcount savings, the actual dollar of savings, depending on the type of headcount, and the impact to your laboratory is going to be very specific to your environment. But at a minimum, you should see significant impact.
Thanks, Rob.
Let me just add that in our presentation, we actually showed some numbers. We have this also on our website, inpeco.com. There are some studies, but just to echo what Rob just said, it's going to depend very much from the initial state. So what does standalone mean? How many people are actually working there versus an automated state? So what all studies are coincident is that there is a significant reduction. In the paper that we're referring to, it's 15%, but we've had experiences that this number is correlated to the total number of the people working in the lab. If you just look at the core lab or the section that has been impacted by automation, there have been cases where the reduction is 50% or higher. So it's going to be a significant reduction, and then this reduction can be, I would say, leveraged in multiple ways. Whether the lab is struggling to find people, and in that case, it provides them for space to breathe, let's say like that. Or if you're just opening up a new section, a new area, new specialties, you can relocate people to that area without having to increase your headcount. So this is what automation is providing. But this is just one element of automation. So I also expect that I've highlighted that automation also brings traceability. Traceability means control and means quality of results. And that is our end vision, is really to provide the result which in the end the doctors and patients can rely on.
Thank you, gentlemen. Now, in your experience, what have been the main challenges during the first installations and corrective maintenances?
I'll take the first crack at that. I think as we've learned over time throughout installations how to be better, we started years ago with this process, especially in the mega labs. And I would say that this is an opportunity to discuss that our customers are what lead us and drive us. Even some of the innovation that Bruno showed is customer driven. And so when we are, let's say, looking at installation and how can we be better, this is really the feedback of customers. In fact, ourselves and Rob are going to have a bit of a debrief, if you will, together post-installation on what we could have done better, what we did well, and then work on those items that are, let's say, still need some polish on them. But I would say that we've learned a ton over the past 10 plus years on how to be more efficient, how to be, let's say, quick for the corrective action component of that, and quick to answer the need, but really being driven by the customer and the customer's feedback, and then aligning ourselves to what those best practices should be. So Bruno or Rob, I don't know if you have any additional comments on that, but that's my perspective.
Just from the perspective of the user, there are two major things that you got to think about. One is the physical piece of it. The other is the software piece of it. We talked a little bit about the physical piece of it earlier. In an operating laboratory, you're going to impact that laboratory as you move instruments around, as you connect them to the track, as you have to have space to build the track, the HVSs, and so forth. The other piece of it, though, is the brains of this system is software. And interconnecting that software, integrating that software in your existing platforms with your LIS, with any other middleware that you happen to be using in your laboratory, that is a major effort. It has to be well thought out. The folks at Inpeco are very, very good at understanding and designing solutions for that. But that's probably been the single largest challenge for us, is making sure the middleware and the LIS and the software within the track system are all working properly, passing the information properly, and coordinating.
Agreed. Thank you, Rob.
Thanks, Rob. And gentlemen, we're almost at time. We have time. I'm going to squeeze 2 more questions in.
Okay.
So this one, do you have an ROI calculator that can be used to determine the business case to go with Inpeco?
Ooh, that's a difficult
Bruno.
one.
Yeah.
Well, I'll take one. So the short answer is no. There is no ROI calculator. So for sure there are financial aspects that also Rob has shared that they were part of the decision, but there are also, I would say, strategic benefits associated with this decision of unbundling the track with the analyzers. So Rob also alluded to those. So the freedom to choose, the freedom to negotiate with the IVDs, also to have the best of breed. So you don't take any compromise. You don't have to take everything from one single IVD. So how much is that worth? So it's going to depend on each single customer. Some customers might be okay with just taking an average solution across the whole disciplines. Others just want to have the best offer in each of the disciplines. We believe that carries a lot of value. So it's up to the customer to really wait when to go with Inpeco and when to go somewhere else.
Yeah, I think ROI is specific to the end user, meaning what not only from a volume perspective, what analytical components are chosen, all of those sort of things. There's a lot that can feed an ROI tool. I've seen them in the past. I think the reality is what is the return on investment for you, right? And then tailoring that conversation or tailoring that, let's say, proof point to that piece. And, I know that Rob and I discussed ROI. We've discussed this, during more of the negotiation phase. And we can never really provide just a specific answer to that. So a lot of times the end user will end up finding their own ways to find that return on investment. And Rob, I'd open it up to you to just maybe, if you want to speak about how you approach that.
I think you've covered the basics on that. It's specific to your organization, how you're structured in the departments that are going to be impacted, what your internal hurdle rates are, what your labor costs are. There's just a variety of factors, and it's working with your financial team. They're probably got internal ROI models that you'll be able to glean data and drop into.
Sure.
Thank you. And our final question. Are there any plans to combine mobile robots, cobots, working directly with your new generation of track? Staff are getting harder and harder to find.
Again, short answer is yes. It's a technology that we've been working since 5 years now. We're still evaluating, assessing exactly in which specific areas mobile robots could complement the automation in the best way possible. My advice is just keep tuned, visit our website, and more to come about it, either in Chicago or soon in our socials or website.
Thanks, Bruno. And you know what? I'm going to squeeze one more in because I think this is an important one to address. In the past, the Inpeco website had an option that lab managers could freely design automation systems through a simple application and see if it would suit them. Will this option be available again in the future?
So that option was available in our website, inpeco.com. On the front page, it was called Lab Configuration. It's called Lab Configuration. It's still there. So if you're having any issues, any troubles in assessing, please drop us an email and we can check if anything is happening with your specific email or access. So we do have some basic information about who's accessing. And in that configurator, actually, you can just drag and drop the different elements, the different pieces. You can move angles of the camera, and you can actually understand if that solution could fit your lab. A sort of, let's say, pre-layout before we can actually get involved and start also supporting you in a more detailed and a more technical discussion. This is completely open and free. Do let us know if you're having any issues in accessing, and we'll make sure that it's going to work for you.
Thank you, Bruno. Now, Bruno, Tommy, Rob, before we wrap, do you have any final comments for our audience?
Bruno, I'll let you start.
Well, no comments. I would just like to thank everyone for dropping by and participating in this session. Very interesting, very promising questions. These do help us understand whether we're going in the right direction. And I would just again invite everyone to meet us if you're in Chicago at ADLM to visit our booth. We love to hear about customers. As you've heard, part of our strategy is after looking and hearing and listening to customers directly. And this is how we've been able to bring innovations in the past, and this is how the company wants to continue in the future. So thank you, everyone.
And I would like to specifically thank Rob, Bruno for their participation in this. This is our first Lab Roots webinar, so in my opinion, it went pretty well. And so thank you both, Bruno and Rob, for your support of this. And on that tune of what Bruno's saying, it is nice to see the types of questions that are being asked. I think they're the right questions, and I appreciate them very much. And here for this North American side of the world, feel free to contact us at any point in time if you want to have follow-on discussions or further explore the Inpeco relationship. And so we're always available for that. And but from my perspective, I think this is excellent to have this chance to interact with people and then have more of an interactive conversation, answering questions. So excellent. Thank you, Christy, for moderating. And Rob, anything from your side before we close out?
I appreciate the opportunity to present with you all. It's been a pleasure working with Tommy and the team here in the U.S., as well as Bruno and the team overseas. It's been very educational. It's been very rewarding, and I look forward to continued relationship.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
Tommy, Bruno, thank you for your time today and your important contribution to Total Lab Automation. Rob, thank you for your time and for your insight and perspective. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get Kathleen connected, but we thank her for joining us and trying. Yeah. But I do also want to thank Inpeco North America for underwriting today's educational webcast. And last but not least, I do want to thank all of you for joining us today and for your interesting questions. We had some great questions coming in, and there were quite a few we were unable to get to. So don't fret. Your questions will be answered via the contact information you provided at the time of registration. And this webinar will be available for on-demand viewing in about 30 minutes. We'll send you an email when it's available for replay, and we encourage you to share that email with your colleagues who may have missed today's live event. And you can still submit questions during that on-demand period. So if you got them, ask. So it's wonderful to see you all. Thank you all for joining us again. Until next time, have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.